місця.
Dear colleagues, we are about to begin our roundtable. Please take your seats, and we'll talk about effectiveness of municipal utility companies. Serhiy Gusovsky will moderate this session. He is the head of Samopomich fraction in Kyiv. I'll give you a couple technical issues. All our events in Ukrainian Crisis Media Center will be translated simultaneously into Russian and English, so that your opinion is fully translated. Please be specific. Please take your time, and this will help us with understanding only one turned-on microphone. We'll need only one person speaking at the same time. When they switch off their microphone, you can turn yours on. So, Serhiy, the microphone is yours. Thank you. Respected colleagues, our meeting today is dedicated to questions of public audit of the whole public sector in Kyiv, and I think we'll talk about such audit in the nation as a whole. So if you don't mind, I'd like to begin briefly by introducing ourselves. Our fraction, Samopomich, at this roundtable is presented by Andriy Lohvin, who is a member of Kyiv Council, member of Commission on Transport, Maksym Hapchuk, also the member of City Council. On budget, my name is Serhiy Gusovsky. I'm the head of the fraction in Kyiv and member of Commission on Communal Property. So, colleagues, please introduce yourself so we'll know everyone around this round table, and we'll understand who we talk to. Kovalenko, Audit Director from PricewaterhouseCoopers. Next to me, Natalia Shportin, Director from Audit Department. Next to me, Dmytro Aleyev, Partner from Audit. Thank you. Oleksiy Kutsenko, Deloitte Company, Public Sector Group. And I also have Kostiantyn Bozhenko. He is a consultant in Consulting Department. KPMG, Dmytro Aleyev, Svetleyushchy, Ernst & Young, Partner on Audit. Next to me, I have Press Secretary of Kyiv Metropolitan Natalia Makokon, and my name is Maksym Hapchuk. I am the Chief Economist. Kyiv Pastrans, the Davydovych Andriy, Financial Director of Kyiv Pastrans. So we have president situation. All four big organizations are presented here. So we would like to begin with introduction, which would be done by Andriy Lohvin. So colleagues, good afternoon again. The reason for our event today is the fact that despite the events in the East, the situation we have in our country, the management model for the city, its government, the mayor, has not changed today up till now. And we would like to express categorical rejection to the questions of issues of corruption on the city level. The situation cannot go as it does because Kyiv is on the balance of poverty, and economic and financial situation in the city requires principally a new approach to its management. The problematics are, in fact, about the audit, but not there is not a question why we had losses in municipal companies, why audit has not happened before. But the question is about principal change. We would like to begin by publication of audit, returning trust towards audit of municipal companies and to give Kyivites opportunity to assess economic and financial management situation in every company. So our strategy is first to break existing management system. Second is to arm Kyivites with understanding that only they are owners of municipal companies. Third is to ensure openness and transparency of the budget before the community, to ensure e-governance, to allow significant destruction of corruption, and as well as to do educational anti-corruption campaign. We began with requirements to have independent regular audit with such Kyiv municipal companies as Kyiv Pastrans and Kyiv Metropolitan. This process is already launched, and today we'll talk about the stage it is in and what are the further steps we must do to successfully complete the process. After the audits are complete, we will insist on development and creation of anti-crisis program for every municipal company, according to which we'll have to see clear steps and deadlines to take municipal companies out of economic loss situation. For us, Kyivites, and for everyone, will have specific deadlines, specific conditions and steps that we all would be able to control and follow. Clear steps to return additional profits and avoiding unnecessary expenditures by municipal companies. Will do that together with chiefs of these municipal companies to facilitate this work for them, and important work. And after this, and we are talking about Kyiv Pastrans and Metropolitan right now, will insist that tariff, such important key issues for Kyivites as tariff changes, this decision must be done after it's worked through in commissions of Kyiv City Council and approved by the session, not as it has been done today. Administration has done so in a process that is clearly not understood. So this is our strategy, and I offer our colleagues, our partners. Serhiy, please tell us where we are and what we are doing. Thank you, Andriy. I'd like to add that we have sent a demand to Administrative Court of City of Kyiv to say that this decision about change of tariff plan, tariffs in the transportation, was done with infringement of procedure, and public discussion did not actually happen. It was just a false motion, because only about 100 comments and 400 proposals were also sent, but neither was included in the final decision. The numbers have not changed. So Mr. Lohvin and I have submitted this claim at the court, and it will be reviewed whether we would be the third party. And we asked the Kyivites to join this court claims. We have many claims that accompany ours with purpose of creating clear procedures. So it would be dialogue, not monologue. If you don't mind, then we would like to go to factual discussion of current state of affairs in public domain audit for Kyiv community. So we'd like to get assessment from the top 4 companies of where we are in the question of public audit. if someone is able to comment on the situation based on your experiences in the world, and we would be grateful to know what are the current circumstances. Let me give first general comments. All our colleagues are happy that the audit of the top four is seen as the magic wand for all the problems. Let me give a comment here right now for all of us to understand. What does audit do? The audit just reflects information or confirms whether it's correct or not. This is the first step. But the second step is what is going to be done to this information. So the question is, and you are stating it correctly, what is the current situation with audit of such public companies? And my colleagues will add their statements. But the main thing I would like to point out is the audit, especially of large companies, requires much time. Colleagues from Deloitte will tell you how much they require for Naftogaz audit or some other big company. But we are very limited in time, actually. I understand that Ukrainian society calls anything an audit. Many things that they do call audit actually are not. So in a normal situation, it would be very good for all socially important companies to go through regular audit, and all concerned parties would be receiving important information to make right conclusions. But if we are talking about fast decisions, then probably we need to talk about something else. Maybe some other type of work, not audit per se, but say express diagnostics or analysis of financial economic activities, or if we use it or what we call in English due diligence, the fast assessment of the state of affairs and then steps to be made. Audits can be made only when we talk about attracting investments or creditors to make some implement some specific programs. No serious investor or creditor would come without having analyzed financial state or having read the official confirmed audit. But as I understand, this is not what we are talking about at this time. So we need to say that we must go gradually, understanding how much time we have for what. Thank you. If I may, I'd like to comment. We have two simple goals that we would like to reach with this process. First, we know, together with you, that there are two types of reporting. There is international financial reporting, and there are reports coming from different municipal companies. It's hard to bring this all together and to understand how this all looks. So it's important to work with the Big Four to bring finances of municipal companies into the world standard. What type of report would that be? Due diligence, for example. This could be a simple solution that could simplify life for everyone. Or deep audit that would require resource, time, and money, a lot of money. So naturally, we would agree upon that. But the purpose is to return trust to the trust of Kyiv lies to the leaders of these municipal companies. All the stakeholders of this process should return and start. When leader comes and says, I don't have enough resources to make step A or step B, without trust, it's impossible or difficult for him to implement any process. So we have two tasks. You, as world players with a name, need to look at these numbers and bring them into one standard, clearly understood by all financiers in Ukraine, and to say this is our situation as of today. Then the form, yes, I'm sure and the stages we must define, but we'll listen to representatives of municipal companies first. Maybe we have other representatives of the Big Four to speak to the matter. Let me agree with the colleague that audit is quite a comprehensive process, and really, in their presentation, they have pointed out that such audit has not happened over decades. So you, as a community, and we as companies not have clear understanding of what these assets are, what the liabilities are. And it's possible that among the tasks you have mentioned, we can select several areas in which we could focus our efforts. First, that would be not even audit per se, but because audit is quite a formalized process for companies who have not gone through them before, it would take certain time. But at the exit, at the output, you will see the situation where financial state would significantly differ from what reports say, according to national standards. So not even going into numbers, let me risk and say that probably according to the transformation results, or when national reporting is transferred to international, we'll see significant increase of reserves, devaluation of debts, devaluation of main assets, and the outcome would be quite sad. So in addition, we need to think about the work related, on one hand, to assessment of real state of assets in each company, because it's not secret that the main means are quite worn and torn, and many assets are non-profile assets, are not fully used or are misused. On the other hand, there is a question of tariffs, which is quite important, because in our work with other companies, for example, Naftogaz was mentioned already today, and Ukrzaliznytsia, the regional gas distribution companies, we know that tariff setting issue is quite important. So another area of operation could be defining threshold tariff. I know that tariff has increased. What is really economically justified tariff? It could be higher or lower, but it should be reached through certain procedures of modeling. We need to assess what expenses are brought into tariff setting system, what things might be added or subtracted to reach a justified tariff level. And then community and main users of reporting could make decision whether we continue, say, subsidizing these companies or we try to bring them to non-loss level. So there are many tasks, and I believe that we'll have more than 1 month of work, many more months of work, but we'll need to make first step anyway, because 5 years ago and 10 years ago these questions were important and urgent. Unfortunately, we lost a lot of time, but we need to catch up. Thank you. It's important to warn that both corruption and non-efficiency are main enemies of financial economic state of companies. So the question of assessment for real state of affairs, and if we're talking about best practices, then probably we'll need to provide certain recommendations on how certain business processes should be organized, in addition to the way the tariffs should be set. So we need to look at what state the companies are in today, in what state they should be, and based on the state, the planned profit is scheduled that should have 24, for example, percent aimed at capital expenditures. But today's basis should be considered as starting point, but not as a factor in calculating profit. Deloitte company, Oleksiy Kutsenko. As I listen to you, I can't stop thinking that we need to define what our municipal companies have as a function. I say it's our company because I'm Kyivite. I was born and raised here in Kyiv. If they have certain social mission, that's one side of the question. But if we want them to bring profit, that's a totally different thing. Based on what Mr. Andriy said, he said there are two formats of reporting. That's true. But these are standards of reporting for commercial companies. So if we make audit of reporting of municipal companies of City of Kyiv based on commercial standards for commercial sector, as commercial institution, they would look, like a colleague said, not very beautifully. But at the same time, we're saying that we as Kyivites set certain social pressure on these companies. These are people with benefits. These are a regulated tariff. But then it's a different thing. That's another side of a coin. The standards for public sectors where the question of profitability is not even set. Efficiency of social function is the issue. So let's take this discussion into expert plane to see what we actually require from our municipal companies, and then this question becomes a foundation for providing answer where and for what you need the Big Four. Thank you. This is a very reasonable comment. We talk about effective use of Kyiv and its funds. So from the very beginning, we're saying that we focus our attention on the fact that if tariffs grow, they grow because electricity and the fuel grows, and there is a need to update the fleet. But how are the funds used? The funds that Kyivites started adding, are they used efficiently or traditionally non-efficiently, or they're used for corruption schemes? So that's what we are talking about. So clearly we understand that municipal transport in Kyiv is always at loss, but at what level are these losses and how the funds are used? Because at this time everything looks like we are talking about precedent that due diligence or other types of audit, or there is a desire to look separately and objectively at the state of these municipal companies. So this is precedent over these years of independence. So for the first time over 14 years, Kyiv Patron says we are talking about independent audit. So expert assessment is important. And when we are saying audit, in fact, we direct this situation in your direction, and we require your assistance, your expert opinion. What should be step number 1, number 2, number 3, and we would like all this to go in dialogue with leaders of municipal companies. By the way, I'd like to say that we have invited people to this meeting, and we have invited people from municipal companies as well as from state administrations. Colleagues, would you like to add something to our discussion? Yes, I would like to add something. If we really talk about the audit, there should be a goal for the audit. Whether this is consulting or audit, we need to separate these things, and the question mainly is not about financial or accounting audit, but it should be performance audit, the efficiency audit. This is first set of questions: efficiency, real state of affairs. But then secondly, you're right to say this is political and social issue. Even in European countries, the municipal companies, municipal transport, are receiving subsidies, so it's not there is nothing wrong there, but we need to know what is the cost of transportation, and then the Kyiv Council decides whether they provide 30 or 40% subsidies, depending on the state of affairs in the city. Also, it would depend on number of the passengers that they transport, or the number of beneficial passengers. But with the increase of tariffs, will the train cars in Metro become better? No. Will the quality increase? No. So the public discussion should continue what real price is for Kyivites and what is the cost of municipal subsidies for these companies. We really understand that this is that lack of audit is the price is very high. The cost is very high. If it's safety, it's the mismanagement. So that's why we demand that audit should take place, and there is nothing to wait. Just one sentence. I want to say that we need to understand the situation, whether it's good or bad, to set proper diagnosis to mayor's office, to Kyiv administration. We need to understand where we are today. We talk about social companies, Kyiv Pastrans and Metropolitan. They have certain functions, but in Kyiv there are more than 400 municipal companies that are different, and we are trying to understand their functions one by one. There are many questions.
That's why we have to know where we are, and only after that we have to establish or to give the diagnosis. So maybe some of your colleagues would like to provide their comments. Good afternoon once again. Thank you very much for such a position of yours, which actually is to the help in increasing the efficiency of the activities of all the public transportation in the city of Kyiv. It's very important to emphasize that the communal enterprise like Kyiv Metro is to maximum extent open to the Kyiv community, and we are interested in increasing the transparency of its activities and actually bringing closer the quality of the transportation services to the European level. It should be noted that almost 8,000 strong personnel of the Kyiv Metro during the long period of underfinancing actually was working at the brink, the maximum opportunities. Over the year, we managed to finance about 15% of the much required expenses to provide the repair work, which actually are directly associated with the safety and security of the transportation services, and increasing the tariffs. Actually, it has been a long demanded thing. It's really a pity that it happened with much delay, because the tariff had to be increased much earlier and gradually. And given such tariff of 4 hryvnia per passenger in 2015, the Kyiv Metro will carry one passenger for 1 hryvnia and 4 kopecks, because we have a big system for the, let's say, discount. And unfortunately, we do not have the compensation for those who have the privileges. And in any, it doesn't have to be borne by the Kyivites, but the expenses which are not compensated, it leads to actually the minus or the profit sign minus in our activities. And of course, we had to take care of some of the actions aimed at increasing the efficiency of all the business processes in order to enhance the measures to prevent, I emphasize, to prevent the corruption or its manifestations, to increase the transparency of the procedures of procurement. Kyiv Metro was one of the enterprises, let's say, which took the baton of, if you're talking about the marathon, of the electronic purchase and procurement. I would like to offer the remark, maybe it's not very much correct because to talk about that, because this is something which has been said by the Kyiv administration, but we are remaining in the legal field. We try to be oriented to the Ukraine legislation, which actually gives the right to establish tariff based on the resolution of Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine, which actually takes care of all those framework and this mechanism of changing tariff, which can be realized only through the Cabinet of Ministers resolutions. But coming back to our company, it's very important to emphasize that according to the law of Ukraine on auditing, any audit carried out or conducted by the corresponding auditing companies, by definition, according to this law, is independent, because audit can be carried out only by independent audit companies. And it's also very important to emphasize that in the Kyiv Metro, on a regular basis, they take care of the conducting audits. And the colleagues who are present here and who know the legal and normative base, they know the resolution of the Kyiv State Administration about the enhancement of the different kinds of discipline, which actually demand when providing the annual reports, this annual financial statement report had to be supplemented by the independent audit report, which is provided on a regular basis by the Kyiv Metro company too. And last year it was done for the first time ever, but last year on our website we published the independent audit report, which was prepared based on the results of the verification of the financial statement of Kyiv Metro for 2013. Today, according to the order of the communal property, the term for the submission of the financial statement report is February 28, which will be supported by the independent audit report. You understand when I say that this is the audit to verify the correspondence to the financial reporting. You know that the Kyiv Metro actually purchased the cars metro cars through the mechanism of the loan agreement with the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development, (BRD), when it works together with the Communal Enterprise in Ukraine, among other enterprises, demands annual audit to be conducted to check whether it corresponds to international standards of financial reporting. So the Kyiv Metro annually is transformed according to the international standards of financial report. This report is submitted to the BRD and is accepted by it and analyzed. And of course, this year we're going to do same audit. Procedure, its procurement hasn't started yet, but it will be done in the near future. We are going to inform about that all the stakeholders. It's important to say here that we are interested in conducting audit. We are interested in enhancing our business processes, but the financial situation of our enterprises demands and requires, let's say, improvement and radical measures. And we do hope that all the activists will help us, and the Kyiv City Council will help us regarding the increase in the compensation for the privileged passengers in different categories, and as well in the issues of really well-grounded establishment of tariffs, regular tariffs. Also, we hope to have the assistance on the part of the interested or concerned activists regarding the legal field which regulates the increasing or changing the tariffs, which is obsolete today. That methodology is rather cumbersome, and based on this methodology, Kyiv Metropolitan prepares the economically based, let's say, tariffs, but unfortunately it doesn't allow us to flexibly react or respond to the situation and take consideration all the, let's say, components. And in the end, I would like to say that our company, when we have a huge we really wish a lot to get some comments of the experts. We still have some outstanding issues which we would like to address to the organizers of this roundtable. Number one, the notion public audit, which is not regulated by the legislation. Please help us to understand what is that. And then the next question is the source of finance of the public audit. It has to be financed by the community or some independent organizations, or for example, the big four auditing companies will provide it free of charge, which would be wonderful, or at the expense of those enterprise companies be it audited, and this then we have to bring it to the shoulders to be covered by the passengers. Again, what is this kind of public audit? And again, we address the Kyiv City Council to help us understand and to do that. If we can get some, let's say, explanation in writing, how we can do that, this will enhance and accelerate this process greatly. Thank you. Very briefly, I will comment what you said. First of all, I would like to thank indeed the leadership of Kyiv Metropolitan, that we have such an unprecedented case when the biggest communal enterprises and companies agreed to undergo the public independent auditing or audit. Why we increase our activity and we involve big four, and Andriy Lohvin actually mentioned that we have today a reason that the trust of this audit be maximum. When there is a total lack of trust or confidence in some kind of public or municipal body, we have to change the situation. Speaking about the annual auditing, all the communals and public enterprises undergo this kind of audit. But we gathered here together to talk not about the form, but the essence of audit. We spend a lot of money to check the reporting and the, let's say, speaking about the public audit, we have to get the assistance from Big Four with their huge experience and their contacts all over the world what is public sector audit. I think that our colleagues can comment what is that all about. And in my understanding, this is the available procedures regarding the implementation or annual, okay, now on the annual audit, or whenever we have some kind of force majeure conditions which we are living through, how they can act those enterprises. Speaking about the sources, funding sources, I believe that Kyiv Trans and Bus Trans and the Metropolitan, this again we are talking about the money of the Kyivites. We're not talking about the source of finance and what is required, because that's even more important that maybe the finance. So the price information coming from the international auditing companies must be also well balanced, well weighted, and they are not going to make big money on this. This also has something to do with their life. They also live in this city. They really must be interested in the efficient resolution of this issue. I also believe that not everything is understood here, that our colleagues must be involved in this audit, in the tender which was on your website, 10 days for application to be part of this audit tender. Maybe not 100% those messages were understood, what are the tasks, and maybe the focus was not proper. They have to understand what you mean speaking about auditing and the necessity of this audit or auditing. Perhaps the result of such a meeting, this meeting will result in a situation when the term of applying for the participation in this audit can be extended, taking into consideration the goals of this audit, because I understand that not all our colleagues understand, let's say, properly or in the same manner the goals and objectives of this audit. I would like to add that for the last 14 years we've been living under the public, let's say, limitations and restrictions. I'm talking here not as a politician, as the head of the company. The heads must be proactive, not reactive, but proactive. Big four auditing companies which actually give trust to equivalence to you. They have to say what kinds of audit there are. There is a review, there is consulting, and there is audit. Let's start from the small step, not waiting for the resolution of cabinet ministers or anybody else. Let's take care of some basic things which give us at least directions. I'm happy that I made the first step. In order to to return the confidence and trust, and then we can talk about some other tools and instruments with our assistance and your assistance as well. Maybe now it's good time to ask you whether you had enough time to come up with your proposals regarding this auditing, and did you understand the tasks outlined by Kyiv Bus Trans and Kyiv Metropolitan, please. My understanding that now we are talking rather about some preliminary information on the one hand of auditors, on the one hand of Kyiv Metro company, which is Kyiv Bus Trans or Kyiv Passenger Transportation Company. We are talking about some international experience, perception of this auditing by financial institutions like EBRD and others. Whether there are some companies which meet those criteria or not. Well, obviously there are. Now I do agree with the fact that perhaps it makes sense to conduct some offline meetings, which would help us on the one hand to formulate let's say the ask for the companies, because I heard that those requirements imposed by the legislation on the enterprises and companies like the national level auditing and reporting, they are fulfilled by the enterprises. In my opinion, the tasks which have been voiced today here and which are really topical, rather we are talking about certain analysis of financial operational activities of the companies and enterprises. Based on the results of this analysis, on the one hand, we can come up with some recommendations regarding optimization of their expenses, expenditures, regarding those the profits which can be increased. For example, profits coming from the advertisement or commercials and non-profile activities, etc. And of course, their information again. We have to understand what would be the correct prime cost and correct price for those services provided by the companies and enterprises. Then the delta or the difference between the let's say privileged tariff and the economically grounded tariff, they must be covered like today from those sources like budget of the city, of the country, etc. Thank you. And the proposal regarding offline meetings is absolutely really urgent topical because today we did not put us a task to resolve the issues or the problems during this roundtable. We are talking today, there is outline problem which we face, and today we had a press conference we conducted by, it so happened it coincided in time, by the mayor of the city, Mr. Klitschko. He reported today that the audit revealed the, let's say, the violations in Kyiv restaurant, 3 billion hryvnia. And you know, we were talking about the budget for the law enforcement entities, and we are happy to hear that. Maybe something has been started or start to happen. We are talking about Kyiv restaurants. Maybe there are some other comments in addition to the dialogue immediately between you as the experts and the recipients and beneficiaries of this assistance or analysis. We also would like to hear the recommendations regarding our activities. Maybe to some extent we can increase the fastness or the speed of those changes. What we haven't done as yet, maybe you can be facilitators of this process, because now we heard and we understand that you are like reps of the communal enterprises and companies. You're limited in what you can do. Same time, we can see that the leaders and the management of the enterprise companies, they are not limited in their address on the Kyiv Council regarding the changes to be introduced or transformations in the standards, legal standards, or administrative structure, or financial changes. Nobody limits them in that, and they have to take decisions to find way out in this situation.
Let me give you an example, Sergey. In rent tariffs are set by Kyiv Rada today in Kyiv, but this is commercial issue. So we talk in Kyiv about possibility to return commercial prices to advertising and to rent. So these initiatives should come from you, and I believe there will be significant support. In the beginning of this week, we could speak to the leader of Central District of Warsaw. He was surprised, he was shocked by the fact that Kyiv Council has no relations to setting tariffs, that Kyiv Council is passive viewer of how the tariffs are set and justified. Maybe there are some recommendations or suggestions in this regard. Thank you for this opportunity to speak up, Sergey. If we talk about such fine thing as procurement of services, including audit services, you are representative of Kyiv Rada, the legislative agency of Kyiv. You need to consider, or the council needs to consider, based on what factor the auditor is chosen today. We talk about public sector in Ukraine, then you can see least cost factor.
who offers the smallest cost will win. But the colleagues from top four would agree that it's hard for us to compete with national companies, well, whom I respect very much. There is certain international experience, and international experience, the public sector has different principle that you have heard, and you expressed best value for money is the principle. So, not who offers the smallest price, but who would do it best. Maybe a little more expensively, but best. Coming out of situation that customer, and you need to decide offline who customer would be, what customer wants to see as a result of this work. Thank you. Another comment from practice of working with state companies and ministries recently. Some ministers are working with Big Four on similar issues. There are maybe questions in specific short-term tasks, but based on experience, we understand it's very important, this process, whether audit or other diagnostics, any analysis, it's important to understand who is a process owner, who leads this process, who is interested in a result, because community is interested, I'm sure, and members of the council are interested, the company leadership is interested, and their accountability to Kyiv state administration is also important. So every financial plan should be approved by Kyiv administration, and because they are the ones who are giving assignments and giving permission. So if these process owners are not defined, it would be lagged behind, because every initiative by each company will remain somewhere on the desk and will not go higher. So your role is to stimulate, to help, to define who is responsible, and to require some periodic reporting once a month, once a quarter, to see what's happening. And you, as representatives of the whole community, and who have access to people more than other citizens, you can do it better than others. Another comment about information channel, information about the future tenders. It would be very good to have this information available. Out of 400 municipal companies, only 2 began this tendering process for audits. This information should be provided at the resource of Kyiv administration, and about timetable 10 days, like you said, it's too short of a term. Thank you. Let's go to presentation, back to presentation, our strategy slide. Let me comment. If we can get the slide, fine. If not, it's okay. Every member of the council, especially in Samopomich group, our goal is to destroy corrupt system, not just to tweak it. It has to be broken and removed. Another conclusion. It's years since Maidan, and we know we are all witnesses to the fact that system is not broken. The guilty party are not punished, but we know that new power came into politics. There is new air in the politics, and we know system is not broken, but it's condemned. The numbers announced today is required of time and lack of ability to move on, like with business as usual. Every member of the council has their own direction, like Mr. Lohvin has e-governance as the main topic, and open budget is another topic related, led by Maksym Hapchuk. To add another topic, return of rational local self-governance. That's my topic, and increased coordination with anti-corruption overview. Mr. Andreyko is the chair, and Ms. Tetiana provides educational standards. So this would be the foundation for the changes we're talking about, the changes we seek and society seeks. Later, as we focus on established work in these directions, we can talk about separate parts like transportation, like medicine, like waste removal, anything. And we are very grateful that you agreed to participate in this round table. It's the part now is very important, like in the iceberg. Offline part is very important. We would like to make sure that there would be certain specialization in every part of public sector, and so we would like to stress that this is there is no way back. We need to go into transparency, and the only way to break this circle, evil circle. How can we do it before we scream and say to community, pay more? We need to show everything related to the money use of community funds, because community owns the city, not the leaders. We need to understand there is supremacy of the law, not supremacy of the government. And as we talk to you as companies who objectively can state the situation with business of the leadership, it's important to work with you for Samopomich and for the whole nation of Ukraine. Thank you, colleagues, for this participation in the round table. And if you don't mind, would like to continue our cooperation and communication offline. Thank you.